Hey everyone! Today we're diving into a really incredible story. It's about a massive shift in thinking, a 50-year journey actually, that completely turned education on its head for thousands of students in Taiwan. We're talking about moving from a world of separation to one of true inclusion.
So at the very heart of the story, you've got two completely different ideas about how a child should be educated. On one hand, you have the old way of doing things, segregated education. This is where students with disabilities learn in totally separate schools or special classes. But then, on the other hand, there's this newer, much bigger idea, inclusive education. The goal here? Every single child, no matter their ability, learning side by side in the same classroom. And that's the journey we're going to follow, from one world to the next.
Okay, so how did this actually happen? Let's break it all down. We're going to start with, well, the starting point, separation. Then we'll look at the global movement that really sparked the change. After that, we'll zoom in on Taiwan's own path, see how parents became such a huge part of the story, and finally, we'll ask, what's next? All right, first things first. To really get how far things have come, you have to understand where they started. And for most of the 20th century, the whole system was built around a single idea, separation. You see, the thinking back then was that students with disabilities just needed a totally different kind of environment. And this led to a whole system of special schools and special classes. Now, the intention was good, right? To give them specialized care. But what ended up happening was you had two separate worlds. It didn't just isolate these students, it basically built a wall between them and everyone else. But then, things started to change. In the 1960s, a really powerful new idea started bubbling up, all the way from Scandinavia, and it was about to challenge this entire way of thinking. It was called the normalization principle. And honestly, it was revolutionary. The core idea sounds simple, but it was incredibly profound. Society has a duty to give people with disabilities the same kinds of experiences in school, at work, just in life that everybody else gets. It was a total 180-degree turn from the old model of segregation. And this principle, it just lit a fire under people. You can literally watch it spread across the globe. First, it influences this huge landmark act in the United States in '75. Then, flash forward to 1994, and it's the foundation of the UN Salamanca Statement, signed by 92 nations. And finally, in 2006, it's set in stone in the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. This wasn't some passing fad. This was a full-blown global human rights movement. And this quote, man, it just gets right to the heart of the matter. The Salamanca Statement didn't just say inclusion was a nice idea. No, it declared it a duty. It reframed education not as some service, but as a fundamental human right for every single child. And that meant schools had to change for the student, not the other way around.
So that brings us back to Taiwan. How did they take this massive global vision and actually make it happen on the ground? Well, it wasn't overnight. It was a very deliberate, step-by-step process of changing the laws, and it took decades.
And it really did start small. You can see the first little pilot program way back in '66, then a resource room in '75. These small wins started to build momentum, and that led to the very first Special Education Act in 1984. But the real game changer, that was the 1997 amendment. That's what officially put inclusion into law. And then they tweaked it again in 2009 to really focus on making it high quality.
So, okay, that leads us to the big question, right? After all that work, all those laws, all those reforms, what was the payoff? What does education in Taiwan actually look like for these students today?
The answer is right here in this one number. Today, almost 95% of students with disabilities in Taiwan are learning in regular schools. Think about that. That's a near total flip of the old system. And you know what's really fascinating? When you break that number down, the story gets even better. Just look at this. For preschool, elementary, and middle school, the integration is practically complete. We're talking over 96%. Yeah, there's a little dip in high school, but the overall trend is just undeniable. Inclusion isn't the exception anymore in Taiwan. It's the norm. But listen, laws and statistics only tell you part of the story. To make inclusion really work day in and day out, Taiwan's reforms did something brilliant. They empowered a group that is just absolutely essential to all of this, the parents. See, under the law in Taiwan now, parents are not just sitting on the sidelines anymore. Not at all. They have the legal right to be in the room where the big decisions are made. They are key members of the team that builds their child's individualized education program, the IEP. They get a say in learning goals, in support services, and, this is huge, they have the right to choose where their child goes to school. They've gone from being spectators to being core players in the game.
And that brings us right up to today. I mean, getting to almost 95% placement in regular schools, that's a huge, monumental win. But the people who fought for this know that the job isn't done. It's not the final destination.
Because the next big hurdle is moving beyond just being in the room, right? It's not enough to just have a seat in the class. The real goal now is something deeper, meaningful participation. It's about making sure every student isn't just physically there, but is actually learning, growing, and feels like they are a true part of that classroom community.
And this image, I think it just perfectly captures that ultimate vision. It's not about kids just sitting next to each other. It's about genuine connection. It's about building one single, unified school system where every child gets the support they need to really learn and grow and thrive together.
What Taiwan's journey shows us is that with a clear vision and a whole lot of effort, incredible change is absolutely possible. The classroom door is now wide open. So the question that's left for educators everywhere is this. Now that everyone's inside, how do we build a community in that room where every single student feels, without a shadow of a doubt, that they truly belong?